Hello, you multi. Mount Mulberry maladjusted moonstrokies. And thank you to Kevin Finnerty for that rather fancy malt mention. I do occasionally get malt mentions which are just too many words and I have to trim them down. Please don't take it personally. I just got to get on with the review. Otherwise, they just get longer and longer and longer. That's what would happen, so I've got to be practical about it. So that's about as long as I have a malt mention these days. But of course we need a malt mention, don't we, malt mates? Because we're in whisky review mode. And I've just reviewed this whisky in Ralphie Review 970 and 970 Extras, which is what you're watching right now, is additional whisky information above and beyond a straightforward review of a single bottle of whisky and information accompanying that specific single bottle. So what I have in front of me are 3 non-age statement whiskies. I didn't used to review these because I felt that it's lacking disclosure. It's lacking connective, valuable information to the customer. Because when you have an age statement, it's just like the amount of alcohol in the bottle, whether it be 40 or 46 or 50%, it's meaningful, it really matters. It's like whether your bottle's been filled with 70 centilitres of liquor or 75 centilitres liquor, or if you're unlucky, and you usually find you're overpaying, it's only filled with 50 centilitres of liquor. So you're basically what you're getting, what I term to be a short measure. Information matters, but there's increasingly a trend where distillers are bottling young whisky and then rounding it off by incorporating older whisky, which simply is more expensive for them to do, because of the older matured whisky is more valuable. But they have to, if they're having an age statement in the bottle, it would have to be the younger whisky. Now, it would be great, it would be fantastic, and it would be very, very beneficial to all of us if the distillers could say, right, maybe it's a 6-year-old whisky, but it contains 70% 6-year-old whisky, 20% 8-year-old whisky, and 10% 12-year-old whisky. Now, is there any reason that they can't do that? As far as you're concerned, as far as I'm concerned, no reason whatsoever. Because it is honest, integrity, transparency, useful information, and it's stuff we want to know as whisky drinkers. But the Scotch Whisky Association, for its own reasons, and I don't believe they're legitimate reasons for 1 minute, are saying no, that the distillers can't do that. But there again, with the Scotch Whisky Association, you do get moments of confusion. Because it's not that long ago, a distillery got into trouble for maturing their whisky in ex-cider casks. And yet, literally within a couple of years, other whisky distilleries were maturing in ex-tequila casks and ex-beer casks. So there's some serious mixed messages going around, and that, by the way, is a cultural thing relating to British industry. I don't mean that as a compliment. There's just a lack of transparency, and at times a lack of common sense. Scotch whisky is a wonderful, authentic and original thing which benefits each and every time from honest, open disclosure, which is not marketing flannel, but genuine, tangible information that those like you and me who pay the extra money for the quality, the stuff we want to know. We'd like to know about the calibre of the casks, the wood used in the casks, the ages of the different whiskies that go into the blend of a whisky, whether it remain a single malt, or whether it be blended malt, or whether it be just a blended Scotch. It gives us an explanation for what we're smelling and tasting. And yet you have companies like Compass Box Independent Bottlers, who are a very notable example, that they have this non-age statement blended malt whisky. They can't tell you much on the label because they'd get into trouble they'd get censored. I don't know. Would they be fined? Would they be flogged and stuck in the stocks in the town square? I don't know. What happens these days? But it's a frustrating situation, because you then have to go to Compass Box's website and download their construction map, their web circle thing, which is very easy to read. And then it explains exactly what's gone into the whiskey, and then you can smell the whiskey, taste the whiskey, and understand where that whiskey's come from. And this is important. So I do hope that small new distilleries, who at the moment are mainly bottling non-age statement whiskies, will seek to consolidate their reputation over and above the at times mediocre average across the industry. I'm saying this because I sense your frustration at times, whisky fans. I really do. You want to enjoy your whisky more, but you feel that you're not being fully respected by producers in the way they bottle, package and present their whiskies. And this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for small distilleries. And I have 3 examples here. Now, I've just reviewed in Ralphie Review 969 the Lecheik heavily peated Rioja cask matured non-age statement single malt. And if they had put on the label that it was natural colour, that would have just rounded it off very, very nicely. But for some, and I'll call it a stupid reason, because it is a stupid reason, they didn't and they haven't. They've withheld disclosure, which they were perfectly entitled and was perfectly legitimate, and they weren't going to get into trouble for it, and they could have done that. So distillers, I know you're listening, so please communicate all you can and stop frustrating your customers. You get some really loyal customers, but at times you really test their patience. Particularly when you're getting so much of it right. As Lecheik does get so much of it right. I tell you, it's an absolute banger of a malt for the price you're paying in the UK. And I've just reviewed Isla Rassi, new distillery, young team, straight off the block, the first legal distillery on the island. It's remote, it's got a small population. Do you know what? That one distillery has transformed that local economy beyond recognition. It really has. This is why I'm passionate about whisky to a certain extent, because I know what it means for the Scottish economy. And I know what it means for the whole of Scotland, not just the Central Belt. And it means an awful, awful lot. Whisky distilleries bring opportunities to the Highlands of Scotland where none has existed for a long, long time. And that's important. And it's valuable. And it matters. My next review is going to be Kilchoman. It's going to be Sannig. In my opinion, one of the finest bottlings you can get from this distillery at the moment. Again, the Kilchoman range, non-age statement. Now, it's a lovely peated whisky, but I feel that Kilchoman put the product out with one arm tied behind their back. They're just too meek and modest about their product. And I really want to address that in my review, my forthcoming review, 971. So in this extras, I want to carry on a little bit and talk about new distilleries to kind of help you get your bearings. Because initially you're not going to see them because production and availability is too small. But over time you will start to see more of them as international distribution contracts, networks and companies make them more available. So you've got the oldest distillery here is Tobermory. It goes back well over 100 years. Lecheik version, the heavily peated version, has been off the radar for most of that time. It was just disappearing into blends because nobody wanted to buy malts. So much has changed so dramatically, so fast. People don't want to see this quality stuff in blends. It's wasted in blends. As single malts, it's just packed full of flavour, and it is it warms my heart to see this little tiny, what until very recently was a completely anonymous distillery that even whiskey fans had never even heard of. They didn't even know it existed because it was so underrepresented to the market by its previous owners. But now then we have the second oldest distillery in the lineup here. It's Kilchoman. I think at the moment it's about 15 years old, 16 years old. It's probably slightly older because time's flying. In fact, when I was when I was in Ireland in 2004, 20 years ago, oh my good, 19 years ago, how time flies. I think Kilchoman were up and running at that point. So it's actually been around for about 20, 25 years. Around about that. And definitely it's got its fan base because it's small, friendly, personable. It's a farm distillery. But it still surprises me now that they don't do the full Springbank at Kilchoman, because they can do it. Bottle it at the distillery. I mean, Bruichladdich bottle at the distillery. It's not a hardship. And actually do all their maltings at the distillery. Because it's still a small distillery and it can do that. But I really look forward to reviewing this for you. It's an absolute banger of a whisky. And furthermore, it's a wonderful thing to see now. QR codes. This is so important. Ardnamurchan have been making full use of this, although sometimes it doesn't work. But hey ho, nothing's perfect. Oh, look out. Look out. It says, sweetheart. All right, come here. Right, come here. I'm recording, darling. I'm recording. Right. Don't knock my bottles. Say hello to the whisky fans. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. This is Fluffy. He tends to be the more curious one. And he's got wet paws and muddy paws. Thank you. He's been that cat just tramples through the streams and everything. He's just, cats are cats. I cannot keep up with the number of distilleries that are opening up now. I buy a book for reference, and there's distilleries that are not even mentioned in these books, which are reference books. And I literally have a conversation with someone in the industry, and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm just passing that new distillery here, there and everywhere. It's something like 70 odd distilleries. Next month it could be 90 distilleries. Next year it could be 150 distilleries. I honestly don't know where things are going, and I don't know where people are getting all their money. And I don't think people realise just what they're letting themselves in for. With all the tax, the duty, the hassle, the health and safety, police around all the time. Distillery is a big commitment, no matter what size it is. So I really commend all the folk who are opening distilleries and prepared to risk it for the journey. And it's not just in Scotland; it's all over the world now. It's really exciting times. I cannot keep up with them. And there's this young distilleries out there that I won't actually mention, because I know that some of you have been saying, hey Ralphie, could you tell us about this distillery and that distillery and that distillery? Because there's no other information online, but I can't because there's just too many. It's an avalanche of distilleries internationally. Things will settle down. It's a very exciting time, but keep your eyes peeled, because the sooner you spot the quality and get in and buy bottles from new distilleries before they get too famous and too unavailable and get all Springbanked, the better. So don't wait for me to review a whisky before you go and checking out local distilleries where you are, that are available to you, accessible to you. And if you haven't visited a distillery yet, I seriously recommend that you do some groundwork. Go on to Trustpilot, go on to TripAdvisor, speak to your malt mates, speak to the whisky club, and find out what's the best distillery to go and visit where you are. Go and immerse yourself in it, no pun intended, because it means you're continuing and developing your own knowledge, your own journey, so that you will understand once you've been doing your sleuthing and your investigations, you'll understand why I'm sitting here in the bothy and occasionally getting grumpy about some brands and how condescending they are towards us and their delivery. It's the journey. Whisky is a journey. We make the journey over time, it's part of our lives, and it just so happens that the thread that holds it all together is ethanol, a very simple yet complex chemical, a powerful solvent, an intoxicant, and so long as it never becomes our master and is always a servant, we'll be fine. Thank you for watching this. This is not what I planned to have as my extras, but I thought, no, I'll leave my original extras for later, and I just did this completely spontaneously, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing this Kilchoman for you. It'll be my first Kilchoman review in Ralphie Review 971, so I hope malt mates you'll be watching. Right, where's that big red Clivey clicker? It's time for me to go, folks. See you soon.